So this is the Board of Education of the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, and now reconvening to open session. And we will begin with the flag salute, and we have some young people, some of whom we know. There's Jameson Cortez, and I think some others have been talked to. Please come up and help us with the flag salute, if you would. And all you young students, Jameson will make sure that you do it right because he's well practiced in doing this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we have a tradition that all of the people who do that come and meet the board. So come right around this way, if you would. Very nice to meet you. We're glad to have you with us. Nice to meet you. There we go. Hello. We're glad to have you here. And nice to see you. We're going to be well trained by the time we get around. Good. That's a good school. I went to. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Steve. And we had no actions taken in the closed session, so we have nothing to report there. So we'll go on to the meeting procedures. And this is the regular meeting of the Board of Education for the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, and our primary focus is the education of students in the school district. During this meeting, members of the public will have the opportunity to share information and voice their ideas and concerns regarding matters within the jurisdiction of this public agency. During the board's discussion of each agenda item, there will be a time for you to have the opportunity to speak to that item. If the topic you want to address is not on the agenda, although this is not mandatory, we would encourage you to fill out and turn in a tan speaker card that looks like this, and you'll be called to speak on that topic during communications from the public. If the topic you wish to address is on the agenda, we would like you to turn in a blue speaker card. And I have two versions, the light blue and the dark blue. They're indistinguishable for me. And then we will call your names when that item comes up on the agenda. And we will ask that all of the people who speak keep their statements to less than 3 minutes. And our meetings are televised on cable channel 28 on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. for those who can get the TV away from their kids. So with that, I think we move on to our recognitions, or changes to the agenda first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we do not have any changes to the agenda.
Then let's move on with the important item, which is the recognitions.
Yes, the moment we've all been waiting for. At this time, it's a very special privilege that we have to have some recognitions that we are long awaited. And I'll ask Mr. Chris Van Schack to do the honors of the first introduction of our brand new members of our administrative team.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowers. It is indeed an honor to be able to introduce in a semi-formal way the new members of our administrative team. So I will ask them to come forward at this time so I can introduce them. Mr. Daly and Taylors and Mr. Martin, Scudder. So starting from your far right, we'll start with Mr. P.J. Daly. Mr. Daly is the new principal at Altamont Creek, formerly a vice principal at Granada High School, and we're thrilled to have him at the helm of such an outstanding school. To his right, to your left, is Mr. Steve Martin, and Mr. Martin comes to us from Dublin. He's the new principal at Rancho Las Positas, on the job for all of 3 days now, I guess, right? Something like that. So he's thrilled to be here, I'm sure, but has a ton of work to do probably back at his school. To his right is Ms. Beth Cotter. She comes to us from Pleasanton, and she's taking Mr. Daly's position with the Granada administrative team. She'll be a vice principal there and former science teacher at Amador Valley High School, and so we're thrilled to have her. To her right is a familiar face, Ms. Vicki Phillips. Vicki was the vice principal at Junction Avenue, and she's now the assistant director of special education and brings a wealth of knowledge in the field of special education, so we're thrilled to have her in that new position. To her right is Mr. Eric Taylor. Mr. Taylor was a teacher on special assignment, was working last year supporting teachers in integrating technology into their classroom. He is certainly an expert in that field, and he takes over as a vice principal at Christensen Middle School. And again, thrilled to have him. To his right is Dana Taylor, and the last name is no coincidence. They are, in fact, betrothed. Miss Taylor is coming to us from California High School, where she was a vice principal. She's a long member of the Livermore community, worked for us for a number of years before going on sort of a semi-sabbatical to San Ramon. Comes back to us excited. We're thrilled to have her. She is taking over at Junction Avenue Middle School as a vice principal. And to her right is Miss Marianne Freitas, and she is our new director of special education. She comes to us from Castro Valley, where she worked in a special education capacity for a number of years, brings a wealth of knowledge, has hit the ground running this summer, is in a great spot. We've really brought special education back up to speed, and she's doing a tremendous job. So this is our new crew, and we're thrilled to have them, and I know you'll give them a warm welcome as well.
Come see us.
Hey, as long as you're here. But congratulations, good to see you.
Congratulations.
Good work with the pledge. Now you're here.
Hey, you just can't get enough. Congratulations.
I bet. Good to see you.
Congratulations, man.
Ms. Phillips, it's wonderful to see you.
Congratulations.
Mr. Taylor, how are you?
Oh, congratulations.
Hi, Dina. Good to see you. Great, you need your help already. What? Huh? Hey, good to see you.
And for our next recognition, I'll invite Mr. Scott Bernoy, our Director of Student Services, up to the podium, and he will do the honors of introducing another employee who is new to our team or expanded his responsibilities with our team.
Good evening. Do I need to turn it on? How about there? Good evening. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce George DePaz. George will be serving as our community liaison and at-risk youth coordinator, providing services to at-risk youth with an emphasis on Latino population. George understands the issues and challenges of the Latino and at-risk communities and will seek to support them through building relationships, mental health promotion, peer support groups, teen-parent relationship support, and after-school gang prevention activities. This innovative and collaborative position, funded by our district and the East Bay Community Services, will provide a targeted approach and coordination of services to our at-risk youth and Latino populations. We are happy to have George as part of our team.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
Again, welcome. Good to have you here.
And last but certainly not least, I'll invite Mr. Mike Nagel, our Executive Director of Maintenance and Operations, up, and he will do the honors of a very special introduction. As we know that there are many privileges and benefits to working in the Livermore School District, but one of them is that we're located in the Livermore community, where we have outstanding support from a variety of our partners, and particularly our faith organizations have stepped up to make sure that our students and our school sites are ready for the new year. So, Mr. Nagel.
Thank you. Test, test. Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Bowers, President Dunlop, and members of the board and members of the community. My honor and pleasure this evening to recognize three church organizations in our community that have just gone above and beyond the call of duty to help support schools here in the Livermore School District. So we have members from three churches here that we'd like to have everyone come up, and I'd like to introduce you all. So if you can join me up here. Okay. And just so from our right to left here, we have Tom Kirkendall, who's one of our pastors at Cedar Grove Community Church. We have Nancy D. Montano, okay, I got it right, with Cedar Grove, with Cornerstone. How's that? Good, thank you. From Cornerstone Fellowship and Steve Sanderson from Cornerstone Fellowship. We also have from the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, we have Dale Nielsen and Carol Schill with us tonight. And so we're going to highlight some projects for you and kind of review just some things that these three churches did this past year. And each of them met with our principals and created a project list and a kind of a wish list. And that's actually the easy part. But the real challenge is bringing all the volunteers together and coordinating, making sure all the supplies and the materials and everything are ready to go, and just coordinating that all together. And I think at last count, it was nearly 600 volunteers that helped the Livermore School District on three large events. So it was just fantastic. And we have some photos here that on the main screen that you can follow along. Cedar Grove earlier in the year kind of adopted Christensen Middle School and organized a beautification day. About 40 people came out on a Saturday and helped with touch-up painting and landscaping and just general cleanup. And this past summer, Cornerstone Fellowship celebrated their 20th anniversary by adopting 20 schools in the region here. 10 of those schools were from the Livermore School District. And some examples of the projects that they did were also painting classrooms, bleachers at Granada High School, storage sheds at Smith, painting the playground lines at Arroyo Seco, and then landscaping and general cleanup at various sites. And then earlier in the year, in April, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints organized their annual Just Serve Saturday event, and that drew nearly 400 people at 9 different sites, and including the farm. And again, touch-up painting and landscaping, general cleanup, and minor repairs were just some of the tasks that were performed at the school. And then I'd like to give a special recognition on that weekend where they had their congregation also had a member who worked and partnered with our students from Livermore High's Green Engineering Academy, and those students designed and helped construct a real nice park bench planter box around one of the trees right here on the screen in the Livermore Quad. It was a great community effort. And this is just a great opportunity. It's another great illustration of the community we live in. I got to go out to several of the beautification days, and I was just so impressed by the outpouring support that these folks have given our schools. We really appreciate all the things that you do to help us out. And so on behalf of the Livermore School District as well as the maintenance department, we really appreciate everything that you do, and we just thank you so much for the support and the help. Thank you very much. We have some plaque here that we'd like to present you. It's Above and Beyond, and this is for each one of your churches and to your church, and it says, "You've made a world of difference to us and those we serve. Thank you for giving your time and talents to the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District," and it's signed by our Superintendent Kelly Bowers and our President William Dunlop. So thank you very much. Would anybody like to-
And thanks to Mike Nagel for materials and supplies.
We just so appreciate this tonight, and really it's you guys that should be getting the recognition for the constant work you do day in and day out to make sure these kids have a future that's going to set them up for success and one in which they're going to be cared for and loved. And it was really our pleasure to come out and serve you guys and your schools and the students this summer. So yeah, we just want to recognize you guys too and say thank you for allowing us the opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much. Okay, so
Nice to see you again. Thank you so much.
It's fun to do things when you can see the change as you're doing it.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
I will.
A familiar face. Thank you.
How are you?
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
It's fun to do teamwork type things, isn't it? It's rewarding. Thank you so much.
And y'all have fun. And so we appreciate you coming out and participating in the good spirit.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Really, really fantastic.
Good to say how are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much. Okay, thanks.
And now it's time for our student board member reports. And I think you should be reporting what you think tomorrow will be like. But we're happy to have you here, and you're welcome to say anything you would like. So, Mrs. Schultz, or Ms. Schultz, if you would like to start, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me here. I'm Haley Schultz, and I'm the new student rep for Granada, and I'm also the ASB vice president for this coming school year. So I'm really looking forward to taking on both of those positions, so thank you for the opportunity. First of all, we have some new administration in our school. Miss Cutter, Mr. Van Schack announced her earlier, but we're excited to have her because we're missing Mr. Daly a lot. And for academics, we've always received our schedules, and we're looking forward to another year of academic success. And this year we also added another AP course, which is Environmental Sciences, and it's taught by Mr. Razor. So I know a lot of students are really excited about taking that course and experiencing what he has for the new curriculum. Our Matador Days, which are our orientation, were the 13th through the 15th, and we had a really great turnout. So every student received their schedule and their ID cards, and we were also selling spirit wear for the upcoming school year for all of our rallies and games and our spirit days throughout the year. So we were selling t-shirts and tank tops, and there was a lot of sale for both the new apparel and the old apparel. Apparently a lot of the kids liked the vintage wear from like 2005 and whatnot. So there were a lot of freshmen who were also really interested in signing up for the class office elections. So that was a success as far as getting students involved in activities around campus and getting them involved in leadership. So we were really excited to have them show an interest in that opportunity. As far as athletics over the summer, dance and cheer had their summer camps, and from what I heard from members of both teams, it was a real success, and it was a lot of fun for them to perform their routines and compete against other schools from around the area. And they were really excited about the new material they learned and the different choreographies that they were taught. And then the football team also went to their intensive training camp in Escalon while they continued their summer training programs throughout the entire summer. From the football boys, I heard double days were pretty difficult and not too fun, but they're excited for the season. And the other fall season sports that will be starting soon are cross country, water polo, and girls tennis, and I know that they've all been training over the summer as well. As far as leadership in ASB, we had our annual summer retreat at the Del Val campgrounds on August 6th through the 8th. So it was a really good opportunity for the ASB members and the class officers to get to know each other and bond before planning our activities for this year. So we just had a lot of exploring around Del Val and games and icebreakers to get to know one another, and so we could more effectively work together. We also revealed the homecoming theme so that the class officers could begin working on putting together some ideas before presenting them to the class so we can get ready for our skits, which hopefully will be just as wonderful as they were last year. We also held an ASB meeting and approved some ideas for how we want to use our money for the upcoming school year, and also how we want to approach handling our spirit wear and getting students involved in activities. It's a big goal of ours to ensure that all students from around campus are really involved in all of the activities, whether it be sports or music events or anything along those lines. We just want to make sure that every student feels like they have a place in Granada. So we're looking forward to that, and that will be headed up by our Spirit Commissioner, Maddie Protel, and he's really excited about new spirit wear and new ways to get people involved in our sixth man and our bullpen and stuff at our various games. So the class of 2015 is also planning our back-to-school dance, which will be in September, and the theme is Viva la Fiesta, so they're hoping to raise a lot of money for prom and also make sure all the students have a good time. And we're also planning a back-to-school rally, which will be the second week of school, and we're going to be revealing our homecoming theme there to everyone, so I know everyone's really excited about that. So we're just looking forward to a really good school year with rejuvenated school spirit, and we're hoping that this school year can be an opportunity for everyone to succeed academically and in their extracurriculars. So thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. And now we have Ms. Dreyer, who made a couple of trial runs last spring as a substitute. So now you're in the real chair. And so welcome, and we'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you. I hope my face is getting more familiar now. So good evening, Superintendent Bowers, President Dunlap, and fellow board members. Livermore is excited and ready for the 2013-2014 school year. We welcomed our freshmen earlier this month with allowing them to get to campus early in the morning, where Link Crew held a rally where they were able to perform in activities, get to know each other, and even given some high school advice on how to not be that freshman that everyone learns pretty quickly. And last week, our students came to campus to get their schedules, take their pictures, and they were also able to get their ticket for our back-to-school dance. Freshmen were even allowed to get a tour from our cheerleading team and our dance team. Freshmen were very excited and very nervous at the time, but they survived through it. And I think they were even pretty happy at the back-to-school dance, which follows up on last night. We had our back-to-school dance that all these classes wear their class t-shirts, very excited to be seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. Our staff showed up bright and early yesterday morning for a staff breakfast and some training that was very motivating, and our ASB president and Spirit commissioners were able to give a speech on their plans for the school year. Later that night, our students did dance the night away as they said goodbye to the summer and hello to the new school year. As for athletics, our fall sports have been preparing all summer and promise that they won't disappoint. For the first couple of weeks of school, we are looking forward to freshman class elections and getting to know our new counselors that we have on board. For now, that's all that is going on at LHS.
Good. Thank you very much. We appreciate your information on the beginning of school. We'll look forward to the report after it's been a week or two. Hopefully it'll be as exciting. And now we have an opportunity for the employee associations. So Ms. Field, please.
Good evening, President. Let's see, is it on? Good evening, President Dunlop, Superintendent Bowers, members of the board and public.
We're off to a rip-roaring start, and everyone's excited, a little tired, but excited. This summer, our teachers and certificated staff members spent time getting additional coursework done. They went to conferences, they went to trainings, all trying to work to adapt their existing curriculum to meet the rigor and the depth required by the Common Core standards. The Mitchell staff had a wonderful experience together preparing for their first year as an IB school. The Maryland staff just finished their, they had 2 days last week and another day this week working with an expert on how to do units of study. And they spent more than their 6.5-hour days working together. I was able to work with them, which was a highlight of my professional development so far. For many of us, going to the leadership training in early August was really exciting. There was a lot of buzz and enthusiasm in the room with site leaders, both teachers and administrators, working together, learning and planning to make the most of our professional development time that we have throughout the school year. Many staffs were excitedly working on what they were going to do yesterday at their school sites, and so the teacher leaders and administrators rolled out the training that they received in August. Everyone is working together to increase our expertise and our professional knowledge so that we prepare our students to meet the 21st century skills. And a couple of highlights again. Maryland Avenue will be highlighted in an upcoming CTA magazine for their success under QEIA. One of the teachers was interviewed recently, and so that article is coming up. And they also last spring were mentioned in Andy Hargrave's book, The Global Fourth Way, The Quest for Educational Excellence. So Livermore is doing awesome things, and our teachers are ready to meet each and every challenge that we have this year, and we look forward to a very successful 13-14 school year.
Good. Thank you very much. With that, I don't think there are any other reps from the associations. I don't see any. Okay. So with that, let's move on to communication from the public. And communication from the public is a time for the public to comment either in writing or verbally on any item that is not on the agenda. The board may listen to the comment and ask clarifying questions, but they will neither discuss nor take action at this meeting on topics that are not on the agenda in accordance with the Brown Act. If you would like to address a topic not on this evening's agenda, now is the time to do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes so that each speaker can have time to speak once. Thank you. At this point, I have no cards from the public. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on something that's not on the agenda? If not, let's move then to correspondence. Mrs. White, any correspondence?
Yes, Dr. Dunlop. We have a letter from Clay Felicitas, who is a longtime district community liaison. We've just introduced ourselves to the new community liaison, and now we're hearing from the one who's just retired. Clay was hired, must be close to 20 years ago. He's just retiring. In his letter, he shares his observations about the students and their achievement. He relates that he was not as successful as he would like to have been in addressing the important topics of gangs, drug use, and school climate. Clay also reports that the city is reestablishing the gang task force that was active many years ago. Clay remarks that because his assignment was district-wide, he has a district-wide view of the staff approach to student behavior or misbehavior, as well as staff behavior. He's also concerned that we, the board, don't get as much information as we should when there is a stipulated expulsion rather than a full disciplinary hearing. Lastly, he suggests the meeting with the superintendent and the board so that he can provide additional information.
Okay. Any other correspondence?
That's all the correspondence.
Okay.
Shall we address his invitation to meet, or?
Well, I think, Mrs. Superintendent, you have.
So in response to the letter, What I'm planning to do is arrange for a meeting and I think we have at least 2 board members who volunteered because of the Brown Act. We want 2 board members to be present, as well as myself. And then we'll be inviting the representative, at least one of our SROs or from the police department to come also to hear. And then we'll invite Mr. Felicitas to join us, and possibly a staff member who's responsible, or if we don't ask Jorge or George, who you just met, to come, then we'll certainly share information to give him a basis for work that he may be encountering going forward. So, and then we would report back to the rest of the board on the outcomes.
Yeah, we would certainly appreciate that, and so thank you. That's a good
And we'll do that
recommendation.
rather than later, so it's fresh in everyone's mind. So once you get school up and running, so as long as Mr. Felicitas hasn't gone on a retirement trip yet and he's close in town, then we'll make him available. Thank you.
Okay, with that, let's move on for our information discussion items. And Mr. Nagel, this must be your report for how you enjoyed the summer.
This is what I did last summer report. So thank you very much. Thank you, Superintendent Bowers, President Demlo, and members of the board for this opportunity to share some of the work that we did over the summer. We had a very ambitious, busy schedule. I still, when I meet folks from time to time and let them know I work for the school district, the first thing they go, "Do you get the summer off?" And we say, "No, this is our busy time. It's a 9-week sprint to get the schools all back together and work on projects that we typically can't get into the classrooms during the school year." So, yes, this is the time of year where we perform our large deferred maintenance, repairs, and projects. Typically, these are the roofing, paving, painting, electrical type, HVAC type of projects. We do our field and our landscape maintenance, and we do all our fire inspections and make sure all our fire extinguishers are updated and playground equipment's looked at. And then it's our opportunity also to do our gym floor restoration and hardwood floors, and then assist other departments when needed and throughout the summer. This is a time of year we do our extensive cleaning. We focus on all the classrooms and restrooms and support areas. We do all the deep cleaning, the carpet and tile and desk and chairs, and it's what we refer to as the top to bottom cleaning. We do all the high dusting and shampooing and stripping in the floors and just all the scrubbing, and again the gym floor refinishing. And again, it's a large district. 18 school sites and over 1.5 million square feet of space, 800 classrooms and 300 restrooms and 13,000 desks and chairs and lots of carpet and lots of hard floor surfaces and over 50,000 square feet of gym floors. We maintain our schools because we want healthy and safe environments for our students and staff. We're required to by law. We follow SB 6 and 550, the Williams settlement. Our appearance of our campus is important. We want to be, it impacts our students, our staff, our community. We want to be good neighbors and have good-looking schools in our community. And certainly doing the preventative maintenance over the summer and throughout the year extends the life of our assets and saves money and where we can spend our money elsewhere. So some of the major work that was completed this summer, we did some major repairs on our air conditioning and heating systems at Altamont Creek in Christensen, Granada High School, Junction Admin, and Livermore High. We did over 80,000 square feet in concrete and paving and parking lot repairs at sites at Almond and Altamont and East Avenue and Jackson, Livermore High School. And we also did some large plumbing drainage repairs at Del Val and Granada and Junction and Smith. And we did a major electrical upgrades at Livermore High School metal shop. We'll show you some photos here in a minute. And then just some other electrical upgrades that we did here down at the district office and over at Christensen. Painted some classrooms, exteriors at Junction and Livermore High School. And we did some carpeting, a little bit of carpeting, did some room conversions for some new programs that required some carpeting. We did some restroom floor upgrades with our Terralite flooring material that we like to use, our custodians like at Maryland and Mitchell, Rancho and Smith. And then we did some roofing repairs over at Arroyo Mocho Junction and Rancho Las Positas. We continue with our security upgrades with fencing and our lock set hardware, as well as our window coverings and doors, and expanded our fencing from just upgrading our security. We added a card access to the Granada High School gymnasiums, and then again, and our two big floor restoration projects, Mendenhall Gymnasium and Junction K-8 Gymnasium that we are finishing up right now. And then, of course, we do our ball walls and just a variety of things. And then we just, earlier this evening, we talked about the community partnerships at various sites, and it's just wonderful, the community support that helps us out. So this is our new HVAC system at Junction Middle School. This supplies the entire admin building. This was probably the original equipment, and it had served its purpose in its life. And so a brand new system that's supporting the admin office and the exercise area and the locker rooms. Over at Livermore High School, the forestry building, again, a very, very old unit, probably 30 years or more, and that system was replaced. We have been working on a 5-year phase out of a chiller system over at Christensen Middle School, and this is an example of what's being replaced at each one of the classrooms, and we did 5 classrooms this summer. We had a chance to do some paving, and this is East Avenue with a new parking lot, and just did some major repairs and seal coating and striping, and then we did repairs throughout the district. We did some extensive concrete work over at Maryland in between the A and B wing. This was an area that would accumulate during the rain, a lot of mud, and tracked into the classrooms. It was always frustrating and very hard on our floors and our carpeting, and this just was a real nice addition to the campus. Del Val, over at Del Val, we have tennis courts for that Livermore High School uses. We had some extensive repairs that were needed over there, and we were able to do that this summer. Lake Granada no longer should exist. This was an area where we had some original drainage, storm drains. That we have a beautiful tree there. That's kind of a key part of the campus, and we had some root problems, and so we just went around and redirected our drainage system so we could save the tree, take care of the lake, and we should be ready for the rains this winter. And then hydration stations. You just hopefully you saw the article last week on the front page of the Independent paper. Very nice article on the hydration station this is at Granada High School that we were able to do right before school let out this past year, and then we added one over at Livermore High School. And what I'd like to show you is our conservation consultant David Darlington was able to work with Zone 7, and this afternoon he delivered over 1,000 stainless steel refillable water bottles that will be handed out to our incoming freshmen, and they are both high schools are. This is part of their program. These were given to us for free under a grant. With the idea of not bringing water bottles and using our hydration stations and carrying these around, and it's also protects the landfill, and it's just a wonderful addition to creating a healthy environment for our students and staff, and there will be a long-term rollout of additional units as we get grants and some additional funding for that. But really exciting. I think you're gonna hear a lot more about it, and you're gonna hear a lot more about it in the news if you haven't already. So that was fun to do this summer, and more to come. Hand dryers. We've been experimenting with hand dryers at Livermore High, and this is another one that we installed, and also over at Christensen Middle School. The science teacher there, Regina Brinker, secured a grant, and we installed 4 units over at Christensen. We did an extensive electrical upgrade in the metal shop over at Livermore High this summer. Did some painting out at the same site on the portables. And then one of our favorite projects that we did, this is a before picture of the Mendenhall gym. Please take note of the floor and kind of the dark color, and then we restored it this summer with a brand new logo. It looks like just a beautiful, high school gym. It really is wonderful. We're in the final stages of finishing up the Junction Gymnasium, and it's going to be very, very similar to that. We finalized the logo with the site, and that should be completed this next week. And then our staff, we take care of the rest of the gymnasiums, where we will refinish it and put on a new coat. This is Granada. That was East Avenue. This is Granada, and it's just we do this in-house with our crew. And then the custodians work on all the waxing and sealing of floors and tile, and we get everything ready for school, which is in about 12 hours. And just our hallways and classrooms. And this is that Terralite flooring that we spec for our restrooms. Our custodians really like it. It's easy to clean. It's very durable, and gives us a lot of life. We did some carpeting, a little bit of carpeting throughout. This was a room conversion for a video production lab over at Livermore High. We take care of the ball walls and freshen those up. And then we did some roofing. This is what they call like a cool roof over at Rancho, and we have been continuing our security upgrades with fencings and we were able to get Smith, Croce Elementary, and Christensen completed this summer. We continue to do our lock set upgrades, making sure that all teachers have the ability to lock down their classrooms in an emergency or lockdown situation. Window coverings, this is our chance to get in and take care of that. I talked about card access at the Granada High School gymnasiums, and that's the first phase of additional card access at that site. We were able to relocate and add some additional security cameras at Livermore High. If you get a chance to get over to East Avenue, they had a contractor do this project. This is, and we helped with the electrical, but it opens up the entire office area when you come through the front door. It looks very, very nice. And then our custodians are working probably still right now, just putting the finishing touches on the classrooms and the locker rooms and the office areas, getting ready for everybody's return tomorrow. And it's just been a real busy summer, a very, very productive, good summer. We accomplished quite a bit. These are some of our crews that we break into teams, 4 teams that take care of all the sites throughout the summer. And this is also a great chance for our grounds crew to do field renovations and repairs on our artificial fields and our natural fields, doing any type of pipe repair and sprinkler repair, and getting our front of our schools and all our campuses ready for the students to return. And then we started off the summer, we made a little change. We always do our annual safety training. We go over bloodborne pathogens, hazardous chemicals, and hazmat, and asbestos awareness, and all the things that we're required to do. We partner with Keenan, and we take care of all that. And we also partner with Yolanda Holmes's department, where they go over any human resource things that we have to do in our safety training. Our consultant, conservation consultants, out monitoring and giving us updates and helping us with our energy conservation efforts. And then I'm going to finish off with our community support. This is over at Christensen, where you had boosters and put together a new marquee over there. We did one earlier in the summer with the boosters from the Sunset School. These are just beautiful, good-looking electronic signs. This is a new sign when you get over to East Avenue that was put together with the boosters and folks on the California Distinguished School. This is, again, Cornerstone came out and helped out with the painting of the bleachers over at Granada High School, and then just simple things like painting storage sheds at Smith. And then we also want to thank the support that we get from our local agencies. The Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department helps us out in site inspections with our fire and safety, and we appreciate their support throughout the year. So that is the end of my presentation. I would love to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions or comments from board members? Mrs. Runyon?
Well, first I want to say thanks for all that work. That's an amazing amount of work for a small department, and I'm really impressed with everything you've gotten done.
Thank you.
I did want to ask, you said that you're in process of changing locks. Can you give us like a percentage completion?
Well, classroom locks, I want to say that we should be about 100% done. Yeah. What we're working on now are all the secondary areas where we have exit hardware, crash hardware. We've been working on that all summer. We were pretty much done before when school started. We had some pocket areas that needed some. We could still lock it, but we changed those out. So all classrooms are yeah, and I'll verify that. But we should be done.
That's good to hear. I'm sure that our parents appreciate that. And then I guess I'm just looking forward to Sacramento sending us some Prop 39 money so that you can do some more projects. It looked like some of the projects that were done over the summer would have qualified
absolutely
to be done with Prop 39 money.
And we're absolutely, and we're putting together our project list too in anticipation of those funds, and that's exciting because we. Lighting,
upgrading those HVAC, tightening the buildings.
Maybe this one in this room too.
I think the problem was they had the outside door open. Once we closed it, it started getting cooler.
There you go. So yeah, and I just I want to plug the staff. The maintenance, operations, ground, all our custodians, just the hard work they do. They're just the office staff folks. It was a warm summer. We had some heat waves, and it was a little shorter summer too. So we had to fast track on a couple things, but they're here in 12 hours.
Well, we really appreciate all the work that was done.
Well, thank you very much.
Other board members?
Yes.
I
just would like to say that you help us because when we provide our staff and students with well-maintained, well-kept-up, clean, safe schools, we do honor to their task, which is learning and teaching. And I have said this before, but several years ago I was visiting a campus in another county, in fact. I'm not a neighbor, but in another county. And I was impressed with what I call generically the crud in the corners. There was just stuff. Even the discarded paper cups in the parking lot had been driven over for several days. And as I was driving back, I checked out a couple of our parking lots, and I even went in a school. And we had paper cups in the parking lot, but they were today's paper cups, and I had full confidence that they wouldn't be there in the morning. And there just weren't papers around. I've been in enough restrooms in our schools to know there isn't crud in the corner. And day in and day out, the staff that you have assembled is really conscientious and helps us, like I say, do honor to our students and our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rogi?
Yeah, I would like to thank you, but I know you didn't do most of the work. But please thank your staff. I'm always impressed with the gym floors. I mean, it's always great to walk into a gym floor. It looks like it's a brand new spanking floor, and I'm always impressed with how you guys do that. Also, with all the upgrades and security, I've noticed that along the side schools because the fences are all shiny all of a sudden. But I was also wondering, is there any chance we're ever going to be able to get rid of the chains that lock a lot of our fences or a lot of our gates with better locks?
Oh, sure. I mean, when you say better locks specifically?
Well, it's because we're wrapping chains around the gates to seal them off, and I'm always worried about fires where people can't get out the crash gates because we've chained the doors shut. Okay. And I've noticed how a few schools, because you can reach around and I know you're probably working on it.
No, and so what we do, the flex metal that you can weld on there, we continually go back and do that so we can eliminate that so can't tamper and get through from the outside. So.
But it all looks really good, and I appreciate it. I know all the students appreciate it, and you have a really great staff. Please thank you.
We will. Thank you very much.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Mike, I'd like to say thank you to you and your staff for this wonderful job that you're doing. Just keep it up, and we'll be all happy.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you very much for coming and bringing your report, and do remember to thank all your staff because they do a great job.
I will. Thank you very much.
And now we have the facilities report.
So in keeping with the theme of maintaining facilities, we actually had some construction going on this summer, and I'll ask Susan Kinder to do the honors of the introduction, and I believe Jan Shipley will join us.
Yes, I'd like to invite our whole facilities department to join us, and that would be a department of one. Jan Shipley is our construction supervisor, and she has been extremely busy over the summer, and she's very excited to share some of the three main projects that happened this summer.
Good evening. Mr. President, board members, Superintendent Bowers. Thank you very much for allowing me to present on the facilities 2013 construction summer projects. You'll forgive me, I'm a PC user. That was a pretty hard, tight act to follow there with maintenance. You're right, they do a really great job. We had three major projects this summer. We had Granada fire replacement, we had Granada portables, and we had Junction K8 portables. And I'm going to start with the Granada fire alarm replacement. We did this job in 44 days. We had 32 buildings that we had to work with. And you can see that the list of hardware that was added to this school to make this fire alarm project come together is quite extensive. Some of the really impressive stuff is that we pulled 20,000 feet of conduit. I'm sorry, we installed 20,000 feet of conduit and 90,000 feet of wire. And one of the things that I like about this system is that it's got a voice system, and that was installed in the small gym, the large gym, and the student union. So not only will the horns and the strobes go off, but there's a voice that will also tell the students and the staff that they need to evacuate, that this is a fire alarm. Some of the other features, and this is to the delight of maintenance and the staff, is that this is a fully automated system. There's no more pull stations, so there's no more false alarms. However, I was told this morning that'll work until they pop popcorn. Another nice feature that we chose for this project was to use a powder-coated conduit. And this is a process where they take powder and they electrostatically adhere it to the hardware. And what that does is that it allows it to give it a kind of a skin for durability. And it allows, it cuts down on the labor for painting. It eases the wire pool, so you can pull wire through it a lot easier. And the exterior is a lot more durable. And I brought some pieces so that you could review it yourself. The Granada classrooms, that's our second project. This was 4 classrooms and 1 standalone restroom. What we did is that we had, out of the 5 classrooms or 5 buildings, 3 of the classrooms buildings had to have new ADA or Americans with Disability Act ramps and rails. So we've installed those that was on P20, P21, and the standalone restroom at the field. We've resurfaced every single one of the metal ramps. So all 5 ramps, the metal parts of them were all resurfaced. All the portables, the foundations were installed, and they are now, by DSA, they are now completed and compliant, which is a wonderful thing, as you know how DSA is. We have installed additional air venting underneath the portables, so that that was also a DSA requirement, so we're now compliant with that. And all 5 portables got a new coat of paint. This picture shows you P20 and P21, and you can see that we've got a nice new fresh paint, and we have the metal ramps along with the concrete ramps and the rails. Everybody seems to like it. The only thing that was told to me is that they're worried about the skateboarders, so we may soon have to install little skateboard deterrents. This is our standalone restroom out by the track. And you can see it's got quite the ramp. The ramp actually makes the portable restroom look good. It seems to enhance the whole thing. It's got a new fresh coat of paint, and we're currently working with the site right now to do the landscaping around the portable itself, or classroom, or restroom. Sorry. Junction K8 is our last project, and we had 30 days. We did this in 30 days. It was 3 classrooms. We had to relocate 3 portables from Mocho, 3 classrooms from Mocho. We installed new HVAC systems. That's for your heat and your air. We had brand new sidewalks. We also upgraded the boys and girls restrooms and the staff with, we lowered urinals and lowered sinks, and just did basic ADA work in these restrooms along the path of travel, our new ADA path of travel. Along that path of travel, we had to lower the drinking fountains, and that was also done. In the west parking lot, we did new handicap parking stalls, striping. We also did an ADA pedestrian access up to the building, and these buildings also got a new coat of paint. This is a picture of one of the classrooms heading down Holmes to Junction. The city of Livermore only allows us to move these portables during the night. So it's a very long process. It took us an hour and a half to move this portable, or all portables, 2.4 miles. So it was quite a long night for the mover. I really like this picture a lot. A lot of people, there's a pilot car in front of it and behind it, and actually the residents were coming out and taking pictures of the portable going by. I actually had a coworker come in and complain about the buildings. She didn't know that was the one responsible for moving them, and she was like, "Oh, this building got in my way," and then I showed her the pictures. But I think it's pretty impressive what they can do. We moved them whole. We didn't split them, which will save on doing carpets and internal work. Here, the portables have arrived at Junction. They're set. They're getting ready to be set. They're moved on these big dollies, and they're just sitting there all in place to get placed. They string lights all around them, so they, as you can see in the night picture, it looked a little Christmassy, but they're ready to be set. Here the buildings are set, the ramps are installed, and we're starting the new sidewalk in front of them. So there's a lot of work that was to be done at this site in a very short amount of time. We had a very good contractor, and they seemed to know and appreciate what we're up against and helped us out a great deal. And last but not least, sidewalk is complete. The portables were painted. They're actually finishing up this morning. At 7:30 this morning, the teachers were allowed access into their rooms. They spent all day preparing and decorating and getting ready for the school year. And we, too, in facilities, are ready for the school year as well. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Good. Board members have questions? Mr. Rogie, please.
Yeah, on the fire alarm, if it's all, there's no more pole switches, how are we going to take care of the trash can?
Well, it will automatically sense it. I asked the same thing. I mean, what is the mechanism? And there's heat and smoke, so they automatically will pick up the heat and be able to set off the alarm. There is only one pool station, and that is in the front office, and that's used for testing and for emergencies.
Will us be able to detect kids smoking on campus?
No, I don't think so. No. That's up to the admin. Or the.
You guys did a great job. I'd like to have seen them moving those classrooms down Home Street. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I'm going to get the invitation on that.
It is very exciting. We've moved a few over the years, and in the old, back in the day, there used to be a guy who would ride the top of them, and he was in charge of lifting the lines. The city got wind of that, and that stopped pretty fast.
I do appreciate and I think in the long term, powder coating all those boxes add to the lack of maintenance. Don't have to do maintenance for years and years and years. Great. Thank you very much for all your work.
Maybe that will be our rodeo parade float next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
The parade a little long, but get some. It would be memorable.
Facilities is always, even though facilities comes in and place the buildings, the long-term maintenance is up to maintenance. So really, every time I think about what I'm doing or decisions we're making, I always think about maintenance and how they're going to have to maintain that product later. So the powder coating is something that maintenance isn't going to have to worry about going through and painting it. And because often sometimes they'll do a job, I'll do a job. So we walk hand in hand on that. So we really try to help them out as much as possible.
One more side note. I was down at a local eating establishment near Granada one afternoon, and a lot of the contractors doing the fire alarm were talking about the job. The job is great. It's going along well. No hitches. They just really love the job. They knew they were going to get done early.
8 hours early, actually. 8.3 hours early.
Oh, they were talking more than that. So must have
Oh, no.
Other questions? Mrs. Runyon?
I noticed on the Granada project that you said you replaced 65 speakers. Are those the same speakers that make the announcements in the classroom? Or is that a different speaker system?
It's a different speaker system. It's an alarm speaker system. So they're only in the small gym, the large gym, and the student union.
Yeah, I think that's probably something we're going to need to address next. I know in a lot of the classrooms you cannot hear the announcements that are being made in the office. I was hoping that this was going to cover that, but
one thing I will say about the speaker system, the voice activated system or the voice system, is that there is you can open up a box in the gym, and let's say it's a false alarm, and there's really not a fire alarm or a fire, and you don't want the people to evacuate. If it's during a game, you can take this microphone and it overrides that voice system. We're in maintenance. We've discussed on how we're going to handle that, and we really don't want that known to like the coaches and stuff. We don't want them to use it. So it really is just reserved for emergencies, for the principal to come and say everything's fine.
I think this is broadcast on TV.
Yeah, now you've told them. But I was going to say, when parents go to back to school night and you can't hear the announcements from the office, you know that your kid's not going to be hearing the announcements at school if they're in that room. And it's just one of those things I think we need to put on our project list. And then you mentioned that you were very happy with your contractors. Maybe you could tell us who you used as the architect and the builder. And
for Granada Fire Alarm, we had Pacific Powers, and they were the electrical contractor, fire alarm contractor. PenCon was the general on it. So Pacific Powers was the sub to PennCon. Teeter Architects was the architect. For the Granada portables, it was Ray's Electric. The name they actually do all kinds of general construction. And again, Teeter was the architect. And then for the Junction portables, one of our new architects, Rainforth Grau, and Trinet was the contractor on it. All of them were great.
Awesome.
And it's really nice to be able to have being under the lowest bid, to be able to have great performers like we had.
Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that, because I know that we went through a process earlier in the year to help expand the pool from which you got to choose. And so I'm glad to hear that you used a couple of different people and had a great working experience with both, so that, because, I think the construction cycle will pick up in future years, Prop 39 money and other things. So it's good to know that you had a good relationship with them. And it worked out well.
I've got one more question on the fire alarm. Is it tied to Livermore Dispatch? Or is it you have to go through the Granada and then?
It goes through Sonatrol.
Sonatrol station. Okay.
And I want to say that we did keep the fire department. I worked with Scott Deaver through the whole process. He came out during our pre-con and gave us a lot of ideas on, we had fire watch and what to expect. And they kind of used our little situation for training in their department. So we really have, this is my first time that I've really worked closely with the fire department, got to know Scott a lot, and it was very nice having them there. They answered my questions. They were, very attentive to us.
And you mentioned that some of the things have been taken care of as far as DSA. Do we still have some now waiting for approval? I assume that Junction, since it just got finished, probably hasn't been signed off yet.
It's not closed out yet.
Yeah. Is that the only remaining project?
Closed out?
Yeah.
No, we've still got quite a bit. But
Okay.
we are proactively working toward that.
Awesome.
I'd say every week we get a letter that says that we've closed out. And I celebrate them, and I know that Kelly and Susan celebrate them. It's like a little closeout dance that you do privately, but it's we're doing really well in that.
I think we need to bring you guys a lunch when that's finally done.
Let's get the closeout.
Other questions? No? Okay. I just have one. The walkways coming down from the portables look like great skateboard ramps with a very bad turn in them. Is that going to be an issue?
Well, I'll tell you, if they can't make the turn, they're just going to go right into the asphalt. It's hard to tell what the skateboarders are going to do. They come up with all kinds of clever ways. We do, for the junction, for the front of the portables, again, we are working on landscaping on that. So hopefully we can be able to put something in that kind of deters anybody from going in that area. But I think the site will keep an eye on that.
All right. Good. Thank you very much. And again, that's a very nice report, and we're glad to see what's been done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Our next item.
And for our next item, I'll ask Mr. Scott Vernoy, our Director of Student Services, to join us. And he is going to present information on our new Safe Schools Alert program.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Dunlop, Superintendent Bowers, members of the board. Tonight, I am glad to present to you Safe Schools Alert is our new online incident reporting and tracking system. I have, if this works, hopefully it will take us to the website. So on our website, the Safe Schools Alert is this lifesaver right here, where anyone can go to it 24/7, 365 days a year to report incidents on bullying or just general tips. I have a quick video to introduce the product, and then we can, I'll go back to this site at the end of the presentation.
Imagine an ideal school setting. Happy teachers and students working together in classroom where every child has the opportunity to learn in a safe and nurturing environment. But what if the walls of your school could talk? What would they really say? 2010 school crime statistics show 1/3 of teens report being bullied, and 1 in 10 were bullied daily or several times a week. But it's not just bullying that's of concern. School shootings, suicide, harassment, gangs, and drugs frequent the headlines. Often students know what's happening in your school community before you do. What can you do to open the lines of communication? You can listen to the walls of your school, because now they can talk. Introducing Safeschools Alert, a new online incident reporting and tracking system that makes it easy for students, staff, and parents to confidentially report safety concerns to your administration 24/7, 365. Safeschools Alert is the only system that lets you receive tips 4 different ways: by phone, text message, email, and website. Every tip received is immediately logged in your custom alert system, and your staff can easily manage and resolve issues with a valuable set of administrative tools and reports. Safeschools Alert will keep you connected to your school community like never before, so you're prepared and have peace of mind. Imagine a day when everyone in your school community is working together to prevent crime and violence. When students tell you what's going on before bad things happen, and every student can go to school free of fear. That day is today with Safeschools Alert.
So that's just a quick introduction, and we did put it on our website to give an introduction also to any of our parents, families, or community members who would go to the website to visit. So Safeschools Alert was unique because of the way that we can report the incidents to our administrators. All 4 ways: email, phone, text, and by the website. I just would like to let everyone know, though, that it's not for a true emergency, right? In case of an emergency, we need to dial 911 or make sure that we're getting a hold of a person so that we could tell of a impeding incident. The customized Safe School Alert system we can modify it to include different modules. The ones that we decided on were bullying and then general tips. The students, staff, parents can access Safe Schools Alert from any location using internet connectivity, including any mobile device. So that makes it very convenient for our students and our family. Our schools in the district will have widgets embedded into the school websites as well as the district websites. We are in the process of embedding them into our school websites, but the one that you saw on our district website is live and ready to go. The nice piece of this program is that anonymous tips can also be provided. And not only a tip can be provided, but we have a way of two-way communication so that we're able to communicate even to an anonymous tipster if we need more information, if we would like to help them, at least direct them for more help and support. And so what happens if they choose to be anonymous, we always like them to put their name, because then we're able to follow up, help them if we need to help, and give them the support that they might need as they move forward in this process. And but if not, they are given a 6-digit code, which they can always go back and gain information on the tip that they have put in. It makes it really easy for our administrators to log into the program, pretty much a username and a password, and they can also access it from their cell phones as well as any computer. Each tip that we receive is reported immediately and converted into a ticket through Safe Schools Alert, and it's directed to the school that it is occurring, or there is an unknown. If the person who is presenting the incident is not aware of the school site, then it will come to the district office, and then I can hopefully be able to direct it to the correct site or deal with it myself. Each ticket provides all of our administrators with the basic information to begin an investigation and to contact the tipster if needed. And the fields are customizable, so as we are working through the tip, we can add and delete information as we see appropriate. It makes it really nice because, especially at our middle and high schools, that more than one person at many times work on one incident, we're able to exchange information via the Safe Schools Alert program, but also keeping all of the information in one ticket so that later we can go back and retrieve information if needed. They make it really easy to learn the program for our administrators. They have developed short tutorials within the Safe Schools Alert program that allows our administrators to be proficient from the beginning by viewing short tutorials. Hopefully it will make the transition smooth. So there's many ways to inform our public. They provide customizable posters, parent newsletters, and handbook copies. Even though the handbook copy, we were a little late this year because our handbooks are printed so early, we have printed stickers for all of our handbooks for middle and high school that we will be distributing over the first couple of weeks of school. Also, we printed over 800 of these, one for every classroom in our district. I think that's about the correct number, 800. And as well as some larger ones to display in larger meeting areas. There's also a letter that will go home to parents via School Loop, as well as direct mailings or through direct communications at our elementary school site. I would just like to thank all of you in advance for making our district a safer place by using this program. It is a pilot program, and it is presented to us by Keenan and Associates through Safe Schools Alert, and we hope that it really does make a difference in helping us understand the problems before they become a problem. And if you have any questions, I'm going to take us hopefully back to the website. So okay.
Okay, while you're doing that, we'll see who has questions.
Yeah,
Do we have
that would
some?
be great.
Mrs. White, please.
My question, is there a scheme or a plan to be sure that administrators check this? I mean, I can imagine they'd get busy or...
So they're all sent emails directly. So they will come up on their email, all to specific administrators at specific sites.
So they'll be alerted that there's a report?
Correct.
Okay.
But we also have district folks who are alerted simultaneously.
As well. Yeah.
And so originally it was, I think well, actually it is you, right?
It
Mr.
is.
Monroy?
It's myself,
Right.
Mr. Warner, my secretary, and Mr. Warner's secretary as well.
And then eventually we'll get reports too, so then we can look if there's any data to show trends or, something that might need a larger look. And I think it's important to emphasize this will not take the place of other ways of informing. We have formal complaint process. We have just the face-to-face of, students who feel comfortable with a trusted adult. That's how we hear how things are going on. A student tells someone who they trust, whether it's their own parent, another student, but this is just one more avenue for people to report. It won't take the place of our traditional reporting.
I think that's very important to state that it isn't just another avenue. We still would, hopefully we've built relationships with our students and families that they will come to us and help us understand their issues so that we can help them solve those problems. Just really quickly, if I click on a bullying incident report, it would take you to the Safe Schools alert page, and so we put in a subject, and then you go and you choose a location, and so if it's an elementary school, high school, K-8, or a middle school, you can click on it and it will open up, hopefully, and then you can pick whichever one that you select, and you select it. That will then direct it to that site. And you saw if you didn't know which one it was, that you could also pick, I don't know. And that would direct it to our district office. Then there's a series of questions that people can answer to help give information to the administrators to help start the investigation, the type of, the location, how'd you learn about it, the offender's name, the victim's name, what happened, witnesses, and then a summary of the incident. And students, as well as parents and community members, can do this from their cell phone if they have internet access, or they could use a text or phone calls as well, which are routed to us then via Safe Schools Alert. And then if they choose, they may report anonymously. Do you have any questions at this time?
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Rogie.
Does the system have any capability of sending these alerts? I've noticed that people get emails, they get slammed with a lot of emails, and this may be glossed over, but any chance the system can send an alert to their phone to look at your email that you've got a potential incident?
It will go to their email. Most of our phones in our district alert you that you do have email. So I think that will be part of it. I would just tell you, I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that it does alert you.
That'd be a good way not to get bogged in email and get these things passed by. I realize that there's other people who look at them, but when you're in different meetings and things like that, it can get glossed over. I wouldn't want to see that happen.
Well, and like I said before, it's not for an emergency, right?
Right.
You know, you can put alert in, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Hopefully, we will be dealing with these on a regular basis. We also have our school secretaries who are also part of this network. So hopefully we're hoping that with enough people getting that same communication that we are on top of it.
And then one other suggestion too is is it possible, well, it's a suggestion to hand out a little small business card with a lot of this pertinent information that somebody can tuck away into a wallet or a purse where they have these numbers and stuff at hand.
That would be also a nice way of communicating. On all the flyers are these what are they called, fast tracks or what? Okay, so these codes that our students can take pictures of, and that will give them all the information. We hope that the the stickers that we give them for their planners, which hopefully they're carrying on a regular basis, will also help. It does have other ways to report, as well as, we really do want to put it in throughout our campuses. So.
I only have one request. Perhaps in a couple of months or a few months, you could give us a report to see how it's going. Definitely.
That's another nice part of the program. It does print out reports. It talks about the number of incidents, what type of incidents, where they occurred. So it gives us a lot of information to help us continue to increase our safeties on our campuses.
Okay, and we do have one comment from the public, so Ms. Field, please.
Very exciting program. I have a couple of questions. I think I saw on the page before this that it looked like there was a drop down where you could choose Spanish as an option rather than English.
Yes.
And so I was wondering if the flyer itself was going to be translated into Spanish and made available to our parent communities that would need that. And if we are planning to roll it out at PTA and I'm not sure if the acronym's the same or not, but the BLAC, the bilingual parent committees, and so that they have a chance to train and be familiar with this.
So the answer to all of those is yes.
Yay.
So the flyer comes in both Spanish and English, and we've also printed them in Spanish as well. And great ideas of Parents Club and ELAC meetings. So we'll make sure that we get there as well.
Thank you.
What Scott is, Mr. Vanoy is scheduled to do is to come to the PCIC meeting when I meet with once a month, when I meet with all the parent chairs of each booster and PTA and PTO group, because that way then they'll all get that same information. And I think we mentioned it last year that it was probably coming, so they're they'll get the word out through their venues as well.
Great.
As well as our principals at all of our sites will present at ELACs and Parents Club meetings as well. School site council, all of those as well.
Good. Thank you very much. That's very helpful information.
Thank you.
I look forward to finding out how it works. Next item.
So thank you, Mr. President. Our next item, I'll ask Mrs. Susan Kinder, she's our Chief Business Official, to present our 45-day budget revision.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Bowers. Tonight we bring you the 45-day budget revision. And if I can put my little PowerPoint up. First of all, I'll say that we can say goodbye to the revenue limit. I never liked that name anyway. And so the local control funding formula has now been officially enacted, and it includes most all of the categorical programs. But it will take 8 years to reach its goal. The state budget is balanced. It's legitimately the first time it's been balanced since 2002, and there has been substantial progress made towards the wall of debt. Unfortunately, funding for education is still almost the last in the nation, so there's still work to be done. So I wanted to start with just kind of giving a really brief it's hard to do a brief overview of the local control funding formula calculation, but I'm going to give it a shot here. First of all, the hold harmless formula, the way that works is we take our 1213 revenue limit, then add all of our categoricals that were in flex, plus transportation and our targeted improvement, instructional improvement grant. And that would give us a total of $76,594,541. And then our ADA has been declining, so we would have an adjustment for ADA. And so our hold harmless amount for 1314 would be $75,958,829. Now for the LCFF portion, each grade level has a separate base amount. So if we take our projected enrollment and times it by those amounts and then add them all together, we get a total base of $91,590,632. And then we add on the class size reduction and the career tech add-on of a little over $3.5 million. And then the supplemental, which is for the low socioeconomic students and English language learners. We add that onto it. We have a target of just over 100 million. And then if we take the difference between the hold harmless and that target, the gap is 24,088,487. Unfortunately, we will not see that whole amount. That would be really great if we can get that full amount now, but the state is going to fund approximately 12% of that gap. So that's 2,876,974 is what we're estimating. So our total local control funding formula for 13-14 is 78,835,803. And that is what we have in our adopted budget, but we had it in a different way because we did not move the categorical amounts. We didn't know if LCFF was going to get enacted or not, so we basically left all the categorical grants where they were. So the biggest change for the 45-day revision is really the reallocation of those revenues. Okay, so what I wanted to just show is I'm just going to focus on the revenue. On our adopted budget, this is what the revenue, I should say, this was in your board packet, and I know it's hard to see here, but I'm going to just focus on the revenue portions of unrestricted and restricted. And so we still had revenue limit, you could see, and we had other state and local. And what changed is, so other state, you had a decrease of 9.1 million, or almost 9.2 million, and it was moved up into the LCFF. And then on the restricted side, and those were all the flexed categorical programs. On the restricted side, we had the Economic Impact Aid, which was a restricted program, and transportation, which are now being moved into the unrestricted LCFF. So those moved over to the unrestricted side. This is my creative way of trying to explain it. And then we had an additional almost 2.5 million, which is a Common Core Standards grant that's coming. Now that is new revenue, but there's also expenditures that are associated with that revenue. And then we had some changes to federal, state, and local for adjustments to our grants, and they also have equal expenditure offsets. And they were Title I and Indian Ed and some donations. So this is the revised budget, and the totals, if you add those two totals for unrestricted and restricted, it is an increase of 2,475,323. But our expenditures also went up by the same amount. So if you were to look at the ending fund balance in our adopted budget and the ending fund balance at our 45-day revise, you'll see that they are exactly the same. So there was no change to the ending fund balance. So that is my brief version of the 45-day revision, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment for the public who maybe is not so used to looking at all of this. And the bottom line is what was said last there is there's no change, that they've repurposed money all over the place, and we have some money that we're told to spend on some new projects, but there's not money to improve program or increase salaries or benefits or anything yet. That hopefully in the long run there will be, but in the short run, it's pretty much what it's been.
Others?
Well,
Mr. Roque?
I'd like to echo that same thing. I get parents come up to me and have asked, what are we going to do with all that money? And I said, well, there is no new money. It's the same money, but we'll see it in 2020, 2022, somewhere in there. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, but we're making progress. Just as long as we're on that upward slope and not on the downward. Yeah.
Mrs. White?
Yes. I'm concerned about our task to use the supplemental money for special categories of students. Because if there's no net increase, we have to carve out some of that money, which means diminishing the support for everything else.
Well, I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention. So EIA, Economic Impact Aid, was one of the grants that is now part of LCFF, but we have already, curriculum has already designated money towards, they've promised the sites that they would get a certain allocation for them to work on for this year. And so we are continuing to uphold that promise. So that money, so one of the things on the expenditure side is you'll see that our encroachment went up to restricted, because even though I moved the revenue over to unrestricted, we left the expenditures over there, so we did a contribution from the general fund. So we are still restricting some of the money, and this is a transition year, so we will need to learn what the new rules are to this money. And business obviously will be working very closely with curriculum and the sites with their school plans to find out, you know, how do we make sure that we spend the money appropriately. And that will be coming obviously to you.
All we're reading about accountability, and the members of the targeted groups are going to insist that we support the targeted groups with special funding and special activities and specific support.
Right, and we're still waiting for the details to find out how
to
report, how that's going to be reported and what we need to do.
It's a big gap as far as I can see. A gap for the non-targeted students.
But I think that we serve I think we serve the targeted students right now. It may be a different way of doing it or a different way of reporting it, but I believe that we are doing it, and we will.
Well, I guess I personally have a notion that we need to reevaluate some of those activities.
Oh, definitely. And that's what we're going to be talking.
You know, stop doing certain things and do something that's really focused on different ways to serve them.
Well, this is our opportunity. EIA had a lot of restrictions that sometimes did not really fit into how we would like to spend the money, and I think this is our opportunity as a district to really look at what are our needs, and now we can actually focus the funds to those needs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know we have some reporting requirements in those 8 areas for the LCFF money, but we ought to be able to work to reinvent ourselves as much as possible. You know, if we were creating schools today to serve our children, we wouldn't do what we're doing. And if there's no longer special programs and special reports that we need to fill out, and the governor has said this is local control, we need to take advantage of that as much as we can.
And one of the things that I think in Livermore we pride ourselves on is that we have exercised a level of local control within particularly with the last few years of flexibility anyway. So something like the International Baccalaureate program at Junction K8, which actually is a Title I school that has students there and some of the special populations, as well as students that are, accelerated. What ends up happening is we've used our local flexibility to provide resources for that program. And if you had gone back years when everything was so strictly categorically contained, we may not have been able to do that. We might have had to get a special grant for that. And then still, at a school like Maryland, they still have their Quality Education Investment Act funding. And so that does not go away. That's separate.
One more year.
So for now, we have the lower class size, we have the extra professional development, and the teacher experience index that provide for that school. So I guess what I'm hearing you express is some of the same concerns we have, is that there is sort of an information gap, but we're still committed to serving our students and to the additional focus on the Common Core, which we do believe will support all students. There is a new template that is part of the single plan process, and so that'll help with the local accountability as well as the goal setting that's related to not to what a politician has said we need to do necessarily. Instead, it'll be related to what our current achievement levels are and where our gaps are. So I think that is very refreshing, and it's a little bit uncharted territory for us, but we've always tried to creatively make it work anyway, and now we have, now it's part of the larger system.
Well,
I don't know if you want to.
Historically, we did the same things for each school in a carefully regimented way. And now we have a rationale to do different things at different schools, which is nice.
Bill?
Mrs. Runyon, please.
Yeah, I had some comments that I was going to make at the end under board report and request, but it's more appropriate now. I think I share your concerns, and maybe an additional concern that as we watched what transpired in Sacramento over the summer, the attempt to roll back the actual local control and decision making, that, you know, we came up with this new thing and said, let the local people look at their own problems and make some decisions about how to intervene educationally in favor of students. And yet, you know, if you're up there in Sacramento, you just can't trust us to make a good decision, and you want to come back and say, well, except for this program that I really like. And every senator and every assembly person seems to have their favorite little program that no longer is funded on a categorical, that they're attempting to recategoricalize, if that is a word, the funding for. And I think that that's something that we at the local level need to push back on and say, look, you gave us we have the constitutional responsibility for education at the local level. Let us do our job. And, you know, maybe there can be some sanctions in the end if we don't do it well. I mean, the ultimate sanction is the public here is going to string us all up and run us out of town. But, you know, you can't keep interfering in what we do with the local money and then tell us we did a bad job because you wanted to repurpose it to your programs. So leave it alone. Let us work with it and do our job.
And to go along with that same thought, that I've been seeing some underlying hints of certain groups filing suit to bring these categoricals back, not under the name of categoricals, but that certain groups aren't getting enough money under LCF. That's another issue that we can't predict, but can be on our radar.
Mr. McLaughlin, you have any comments? Or okay, I only have one, and that is this. For what? After 5 years, this is the first time we've had a balanced budget. So we've been deficit spending for 5 years. So we're at the bottom of the hole. We're not on the upswing yet. So this is the bottom. We hope that we do get additional funding in out years to really make changes. But at this point, you know, we at least are not in a situation where we have to find additional funds somewhere to get us through the year. And I think that is a remarkable change. However, it's barely leaves us a lot of flexibility to do a lot different. But it would be well worthwhile reviewing what flexibility we do have to change programs. But I view this as at least we're not going further into debt this time. So that's encouraging, and we hope that in fact the funding as they've laid out for the future, that they don't muck it up too much in the next couple of years or few years, so that we can see really some of the gains that they've kind of earmarked for districts like ours, which were always under supported with funds. So with that,
I think we all want a mid-year increase.
Yes.
We've had plenty of mid-year cuts. I think this ought to be the year for a mid-year increase.
There have been rumors of that. So.
Yeah.
I just got one other question too. Are we still owed any deferrals, or are we caught up?
Oh yes, we are still owed some deferrals. So they've paid some of them down, but there are still I don't remember the percentage, but about half of them.
How far does that go?
Well, that just carries over from year to year.
Lump it all together, and it's not still a month to month.
But they also owe us for Band-Aid costs for many, many years. That's millions of dollars, probably over $10 million. So
we're
someday,
see that,
maybe.
Next month? Not that
anyway, why don't we move on to, thank you very much. That always gets us all excited. So we'll move on to the next item.
Thank you. And so Mr. Mike Nagel will be presenting our board policy administrative regulation, and this is because it's on behalf of our conservation committee, which he co-chairs.
Good. Well, thank you. This evening we bring you the second and final reading of a board policy administrative reg from our 3000 series. This was first posted and read back in June. We took input and revisions, and then again was our second posting in July, and here we are tonight on our final reading. And so Board Policy 3511, this is a new policy administrative reg. It is an energy conservation, recognizing the importance of minimizing the district's use of natural resources, providing a high-quality environment that promotes health and productivity and effectively manages the district's fiscal resources. So the adoption of this policy supports the district's ability to apply for federal and state and private grant funding and eventually to access Prop 39 funds that we were talking about earlier to support ongoing conservation efforts. So with that, the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the second and final reading of the proposed new board policy and administrative regulation.
Any comments? Please, Mr. Runyon.
No, I'm just happy to go ahead and move that we adopt this policy from Series 3000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from any board members? Any comments from the public? With that, why don't, this is a roll call vote. Yes, please, isn't it?
No.
No, it's just a voice vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed, so we have a unanimous vote. So let's move on then to consent items.
I'd be happy to move consent items A through N.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any comment on any of these from any board members?
Really happy to see our new personnel.
That's true. Any comments from the public? No? All right. Then for this one is also simply a majority vote. So all those in favor of the consent calendar?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that's also unanimous. And then we'll move on to the resolutions.
I'd be happy to move resolutions A through E, 2013-14.
Okay, do I have?
Oh, 1 through 4. 1 through 5, sorry.
1 through 4, you've left out 5?
5, no,
Okay.
1 through 5.
Okay, our motion is 1 through 5 with a second. Any comments?
I guess I'm delighted to see that the Tri-Valley ROP will now be 3 members who seem to be the active participants in the outfit. I haven't brought this up too much, but I am concerned that there's no provision in the rules for substitute members. If a representative cannot go, the district remains unrepresented, and we cannot send a alternative board member to the meeting. Has there ever been?
You can, but they can't vote.
They can't vote. They can't
Well,
vote. They can't go in closed session.
That's a long-standing issue in the JPA.
And
there's no one who has proposed to fix it that anyone has been able to, get enough.
Well, sometime when
to
they're
do
not
that.
represented, maybe they'll understand.
Yeah, I agree with Mrs. White. I hope you'll continue to advocate on behalf of the district for that change. But in the meantime, this is a good step.
I think
And you need to know when you go as an alternative or board member that you can't vote. I mean, why bother if you?
Anomaly, looking at other ROPs throughout the state, most of them do have substitute voting. So I know there was a background to this, but
Right, but we could open that. Probably should have worked that much earlier, so we've only had to do one change. But this is what we have
we
to
can
deal
do as
with.
many as we can.
Okay, so are we okay to go ahead with that, irrespective of that fact?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion second, no additional comments, so I'd roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Runyon.
Aye.
Mr. Rogie.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin. Mrs. White. Aye. Dr. Dunlop.
Aye.
They've been going along.
Now we have time for board member reports and requests. So we'll start with you, Mrs. Runyon.
Well, I already said my piece on Sacramento. I would like to mention this time of year we often get bad tasting water through the water system. And I hope going forward, and it's perfectly safe. Everybody should know, even if it tastes musty, it's perfectly safe water. But what I'm hoping is going forward that maybe we can get some filtered water included. I asked that question about the water stations, and it's not. But I think if we're going to have students drinking water, that it'll be more accepted if it's filtered. So
My understanding that it is filtered for the hydration stations, but I want clarification.
I thought when I asked in the spring that they said it was not.
No, the hydration stations do have filtered. It's filtered water and it's chilled.
Oh, well, I take it back. I'm thrilled. We need lots more than.
He's thrilled that it's chilled.
We're thrilled
at
that
home
it's
we
chilled
filter it through
and
a
it's filtered.
ceramic cartridge filter, and it tastes much better. And I go in to get that to brush my teeth rather than the stuff in the bathroom. Anyway, and I know, and I'm sure that we're going to hear comments from my fellow board members about the bill that came out of Sacramento about transgendered youth. And I hope in Livermore that we always deal with student issues with some kind of compassion and some common sense. And I think this bill certainly aimed to be compassionate. I'm a little concerned about the common sense part, but I'm willing to wait and see the specifics of how this rolls out across the state. I'm hoping for some clarity about the proposed requirement and what constitutes a reasonable accommodation. I think in the past, many school districts have had an option for students to use the bathroom in the nurse's office and changing clothes. I know that a student of I am aware of was made an accommodation to make sure to come and have PE first period so that they could change at home and only have to change once, not to change twice. Minimizing those kind of transitions, common sense kind of accommodation makes sense to me, and I cannot imagine the difficulty that a student that's that conflicted has on a day-to-day basis, and I hope, as we do with every student, we would deal with them with compassion. I do have some concerns about the fairness in competitive sports. We have boys and girls teams for a reason, and I don't know what CIF is going to do, but I think that I will wait to reserve judgment until I see what CIF response is, because it's really a CIF responsibility to come up with regulations regarding participation in sport. So I know it's been controversial. I hope that all our families give us some time to work it through and see if we have any actual issues before people get incensed. Let's just see if we have a problem before we get upset. That's what I have to say.
Mr. Rogie?
I was going to touch on that, but I think you've said everything I need to say. My other two things for this last month have been attending the San Ramon at the Marriott's, left my head, leadership conference. I thought that was very well run. Had some interesting discussions for the time I was there. And then I attended Christensen's registration night, which it seemed to be run very well. Our new vice principal there seemed to be well-oiled and fit right in, and everybody liked him, and I was introducing him as much as I could, and the teachers just thought he was really, not teachers, the kids thought he was really tall. So, but it was this is my daughter starting 6th grade there, so I was kind of working her into the system, and I think she's going to like Christian.
Good. Mrs. White?
I attended the Leadership Institute that several people have talked about, and it seems that the teacher leaders that were there were preparing themselves not only for themselves to teach the Common Core state standards, but also to show the way for the other teachers from their schools. And I think that they were eager at it, and everybody seemed to be enthusiastic and all ready to go.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I visited at least 6 different schools, and I enjoyed all of them. Some I was opened the door, and I just said, "Come on in," and I think we're off to a great year. Let's get with it.
Good. Again, it's always nice for school to be back in session. gives us an excuse to actually go to school occasionally. I do want to comment on two things. One, there's been a proposal to advocate for a change in the Prop 13 legislation, which would basically bring or mean that corporations could not simply divide up property, hold it, and never have an increase in the property tax, which has basically changed the ratio of the burden of supporting the schools more heavily toward the people who own houses versus corporations. And so there's a proposal to actually advocate for a change in the law, and I would like to at least for us to consider providing a resolution along those lines. And maybe if people are agreeable, we could have the superintendent draw up a draft for us to look at. That's something that people would be interested in. The other is this AB 1266 legislation, which would require basically equivalent restroom or locker room facilities based on a person's perceived or stated sexual orientation. And it leads to all sorts of problems for operating a school because we only have so many restrooms and so on. And when you start opening it up where a person of the opposite sex may have access to the women's or men's locker rooms, you have a lot of trouble. And so to do this well, you need additional kinds of facilities. And so this is not just one of accommodation, but to do this right, we would need additional or changes in the facilities. And I think we need to provide a thoughtful letter signed by the board or by the board president, but for the board on this issue, because the legislation really was approved and it's supposed to go into effect in January. So unless we speak up, we may end up with a very difficult problem, and also the issue of team sports and everything else gets tied up in this, which is very complicated. But we need to make an expression about how they need to clarify this. They need to make accommodations so that schools can afford to make a proper facilities available. But what we do want is for all the students to have a situation where they're comfortable at the school. And if we make the changes they're proposing, we will have most of the students who will probably be uncomfortable with the school situation. So I think we need to again provide some kind of letter to the various representatives and so on, stating our problems with this. So again, perhaps we could get a draft from the staff that we could look at. Is that a possibility, Mrs. Superintendent?
I guess I'd like to hear from other board members, because in general, there's so many unanswered questions. If, you know, right now we're asking just for clarification, and I guess there was a letter asking for clarification, then that's something that I think all of the superintendents and districts are just asking for clarification. But I guess we'd want to hear from other board members on
yes. I would like to consult our professional organizations, AXA and CSBA, to see what their take is. Clearly, the collective administrators and school board members have similar concerns up and down the state. And it would seem to me that we would want to do it in the best way, which may not be what we first think about. So, and maybe Ms. Fields has a comment from what CTA thinks about it. We need guidance. There's a chance for modification. We might pick and choose, would advocate for that. So I think that our gut reaction is to say, no, this is really dumb. But we still need to be sympathetic and concerned about the students we're talking about. But I want to do the challenge in the best way possible. So perhaps we could ask you to consult with those organizations before we jump right in.
I think that's a really good idea. I mean, we're not going to have 6 different locker rooms. And I cannot imagine having a physically male person allowed into the women's locker room and changing. That's just not going to happen without a hue and cry from the public and withdrawal of students from participation in the schools. And if that's what Sacramento's intent was, I just don't think it's going to stand. So, it's what is a reasonable accommodation. And, we know how things have been done in the past. And I certainly have a lot of compassion for an individual that is confused about this kind of an issue. And I cannot imagine how difficult it would be to go through high school feeling that way. But we have to be practical. And I think that the way that the bill has come down from Sacramento doesn't appear to be practical. And so we need to question back what is a reasonable accommodation and, hear what Sacramento's ideas are. And I think doing it through our CSBA and AXA and the teachers union sounds like a really reasonable first step.
I'm starting to see lists compiled of how unresearched this law was, no matter what its intent. And one is cost to, if we have to redo restrooms, the cost of that might as well be a categorical fund because it's going to cost us a fortune to do things like that. But also it's running into Title 11. Title 9, excuse me. And then also it conflicts with several education codes that they never bothered to look at and they didn't resolve at the time. So there's a lot of issues out there to try to implement this correctly. And I agree with everybody here that we really do need to flesh out what we're looking for and how it's going to impact us, which is obviously what a lot of schools are doing first. But January 1st is just around my corner. That's going to be tough to implement.
Thank you, President Dunlop. Just recently, right after the bill passed, I was listening to one of the public radio stations, and I'm not sure right now if it was the Capitol Public Radio or if it was KQED, but on the show that I was listening to, they had a couple of different people talking about the issue and possible transition obstacles. And one of the speakers actually talked about implementing this prior to the legislation passing. And it was a school down south, and they were talking about how the students were actually more accepting and more flexible than the adults that were trying to confront the issue. And so it was less of a problem that they saw or felt was going to occur. Once they rolled it out, it went fairly smoothly. But currently we already have accommodations for students that have issues, whether it be some sort of medical condition or a need for additional privacy to use the nurse's office in the bathrooms there. I mean, we make time and places for students to be safe normally. And so this is just one additional level that we are being asked to extend ourselves. And I think right now it's a troubling and kind of a confusing issue to deal with, but I think we will get more feedback and more guidance. We do have State Council, CTA State Council, October 25th. Hopefully we'll have something before that, but I will send an email tomorrow to see what we're getting from CTA Legal and if there's any guidance from there so that we can be a little bit more proactive and get a running start on this. But thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Superintendent, do you have comments?
Okay, just checking. Okay, so tomorrow's the first day of school, in case anybody forgot. And we are eager to make sure that we benefit from a good night's sleep and that we are ready. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet, hopefully. And it will get sweeter the shorter it is, I think, if my staff is telling me. But basically, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what a pleasure it was to have the Leadership Institute this summer with 180 plus teacher leaders and cabinet board members, administrators, all coming together and embracing the Common Core, very excited about change, and really diving deeper into this transition. So we were very excited about it, And then what was nice is we had a chance to visit schools yesterday and see the effects of that. And I think the most exciting thing was seeing the principals not just leading the charge alone, but as Mrs. White said, having their cadre of teacher leaders speaking to their peers. So we're very excited about tomorrow, and we have this incredible momentum and excitement. People are coming back recharged, rejuvenated, ready to go, and we do not want to lose that focus. So just want to renew our commitment tonight for the new year about embracing the Common Core, preparing our students for the 21st century, and keeping the academic rigor going and shutting out some of the noise that could come from various places so that our students and our teachers can focus on what's really important, which is student learning. And with that, we hope you all have a good evening.
And now we're adjourned.